What's going on, broskies? So this is going to be my last video for a little while regarding the commander decks I've built, just because they're really time consuming. I did like two the other day. I'm gonna do this last one today, and then I think I'm gonna take a break for a little while, but I'll come back to it eventually. Uh, so yeah, this one's going to be my Vampire Tribal Commander deck. Um, and I have it pulled up here. And I do want to say that I I have Edgar Markov as my commander, but I didn't go with the, you know, uh, it was like $90 when I was building this. So I went with the $20 oversized version of the card. If you ever get it for cheaper, it's always a good idea. You can get the standard card, I mean, down the line if you want to save up. It's just one of those things where like I couldn't justify buying that and then still taking care of like all the financial responsibilities that an adult has. So I never got around to it. I might try to get there one day and go back and get it, but as of right now, I have the oversized card. It works perfectly fine in my friend group for whatever I'm trying to do. And he is a black, white, and a red with 3 random mana cost to bring him into the command zone. But an interesting thing is that he has Eminence. Whenever you cast another vampire spell, if Edgar Markov is in the command zone or on the battlefield, you still create a 1/1 black vampire creature token. So as the game's progressing, you're creating more vampires in a rapid acceleration, and eventually your opponent will be overthrown by the fact that you have vampires everywhere. He has first strike and haste, and then whenever Edgar Markov attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. So if he is in the if he is on the battlefield and he's attacking, you're still growing your army. It's a constant acceleration. He is, if you are making a vampire deck, he is a must. I think he's a great commander. It's probably I could imagine he could be overplayed in some friend circles, but he is completely worth it. Planeswalkers. I'm going with Liliana, Waker of the Dead, for 2 black and 2 random. For the +1 loyalty, it says each player discards a card. Each opponent who can't loses 3 life. It's an easy win there. For her -3, target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. And then for her number 7, you get an emblem with at the beginning of combat on your turn, put target creature card from a graveyard into the battlefield under your control, and then it gains haste. She starts out with 4 loyalty, um, and she's useful in this scenario. Now we got Sorin the Mirthless for 2 black, 2 random. Uh, for his +1, you look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card and put it into your hand. If you do, you lose life equal to its mana cost. It's not bad, but I don't use that often. I try not to at least. For the -2, you create a 2/3 black vampire creature token with flying and lifelink, which is a little useful. And then for his -7, Sauron the Mirthless does 13 damage to any target. You gain 13 life. So if you can get away with doing the +1 3 times and then hitting it with that one -7, destroying Sauron the Mirthless in the process, you'd still be able to get some good damage there. But I don't know. Let me go to creatures now. So we got 31, and most of them are vampires. So we're gonna go with the first one on the list is Anawan the Ruin Sage. It's 2 black, 3 random. He has at the beginning of your upkeep, each player sacrifices a non-vampire creature. Being that all of your creatures are vampires, you're never gonna have to sacrifice anything. And he's a 4/3. So if you can pull off the mana draw or the mana cost of this guy, it's gonna help you out. Athreos, God of Passage, is indestructible. It says, as long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7, Athreos isn't a creature. And whenever another creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3 life with a 5/4. And all you need is 1 black, 1 white, and 1 random. Athreos, God of Passage, really works really well with this scenario of you having these vampires, and let's say your opponent is pretty well off. You're going to have some of them die, and this guy is going to help you with that. Um, Blood Artist, a black and a white vampire. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's going to help you. He has no attack, but that whole life draw vampire blood-sucking theme is there, you know? Um, Bloodline Necromancer, 1 black and 4 random. He's a vampire wizard. He has lifelink, and whenever he enters the battlefield, you may return a target vampire or a wizard creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. We're not really going to have any wizards, so of course you're going to be bringing vampires back. It's useful in that scenario as well. You want to be able to bring as many vampires back from the dead as they start to cancel out. High mana draw, but other than that, it's a good strategic card to have. Blood Tracker is black and 3 random. It's a vampire wizard. Now this vampire can fly, so he is flying. For 1 black, you pay 2 life, and then you'll put a 1/1 counter on Blood Tracker. And when Blood Tracker leaves the battlefield, you draw a card for each +1/+1 counter on it, which can be very useful for you. Um, I would be careful with how often you decide to pay that 2 life for the 1/1 counter though. But Butcher of Malakir, Butcher of Malakir, sorry. 2 black, 5 random, vampire warrior. He has flying. Whenever a Butcher of Malakir or another creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature, and he's a 5/4. Callous Blood Mage, 1 black, 2 random, low cost relatively, vampire warlock. When Callous Blood Mage enters the battlefield, you choose 1, which will be creating a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain a life. Or you're gonna draw a card and lose a life. That's your second option. And then your third option would be to exile target player's graveyard. If they have a zombie deck, if there's anything going on where you feel like you might need to worry, I would exile the graveyard. Otherwise, I would really just draw the card and lose 1 life. Because that pest is not, I don't know. The pest is helpful too. I'm not gonna say it's not helpful, but Champion of Dusk is a 2 black 3 random, and he's a vampire knight. He's a 4/4, and he has when Champion of Dusk enters the battlefield, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of vampires you control. Um, Circumstantially useful. I would still be careful with it. Uh, Cordial Vampire. Uh, he's a 2 black cost vampire for 1/1. And whenever another vampire creature dies, you put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. Crossway Troublemakers, 1 black, 5 random. Attacking vampires you control have Death Touch and Lifelink. Whenever a vampire you control dies, you may pay 2 life. If you do, you can draw a card. It's a 5/5. And that situation is also very useful to have. I've seen in my personal experience playing that card, I've seen a lot of people try to get rid of it as quickly as possible. Drana's Emissary. 1 black, 1 white, 1 random. Vampire Cleric ally. Flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. It's a 2/2. I love it as it's, you know, as it's giving you more life. It's just a life gain. Static. Amazing. But I fear that it's probably going to die too. Edgar Charmed Groom. You might be like, whoa, why do you have Edgar Charmed Groom and then Edgar Markov? Well, technically, they're different names, so I can get away with it. But anyway, it's 1 black, 1 white, 2 random. Vampire Noble. Other vampires you control get +1/+1. When Edgar Charmed Groom dies, you return it to the battlefield transformed, and then transformed, it's Edgar Markov's Coffin. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you create a white and black vampire creature token. It's a 1/1 with lifelink. And you put a bloodline counter on Edgar Markov's coffin. If there are 3 or more bloodline counters on it, you just remove those counters and transform it back to the Charmed Groom. So it's really hard to get rid of that on the battlefield. All right, Falcon Wrath Noble. 1 black, 3 random, flying. Whenever Falcon Wrath Noble or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain on 1 life. It's also useful. He's a 2/2. Enough said. Forerunner of the Legion. 1 white, 2 random. When he enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a vampire card, reveal it, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. Whenever another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gets +1/+1. Um, yeah, whenever you search your library for a vampire card, you reveal it, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. I could see that being useful. Um, I don't know. It's kind of a filler. I feel like that's more of a filler card that I have in here, but it is a vampire, so it follows the same, aesthetic. I'm not too crazy about that one. Knight of the Ebon, okay, Knight of the Ebon Legion. 1 black, vampire knight, 1/2. For 1 black and 2 random, Knight of the Ebon Legion gets +3/+3 and gains Death Touch until the end of turn. Now that's useful. And then at the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, put a 1/1 counter on Knight of Ebon Legion. So he just gradually gets stronger and stronger. Not a bad card to have there. Malakir Blood Witch, 2 black, 3 random, Vampire Shaman. She is flying. She has protection from white. When Malakir Blood Witch enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 4 life equal to the number of vampires you control. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. Okay, so not 4 life. Each opponent loses life equal to the number of vampires you control. It's a 4/4. That's why I said that. I'm sorry. Malakir, familiar, 1 black, 2 random. It's a bat, flying, death touch. Whenever you gain life, Malakir familiar gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It's a 2/1. Next up is Marauding Blight Priest. 1 black, 2 random, vampire cleric. It's a 3/2, and it says whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Patron of the Vein, 2 black, 4 random, Vampire Shaman. It's a 4/4. It's flying. Whenever Patron of the Vein enters the battlefield, to destroy target creature an opponent controls. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, exile it and put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. I like it. It's a 4/4, by the way. Uh, Now we're going with Pulse Tracker. It's a 1 black mana cost vampire rogue, and it says whenever Pulse Tracker attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. It's literally a 1/1, but you could have this thing grow and become a vicious little guy. Sanctum Seeker, 2 black, 2 random vampire knight. Whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's a 3/4. It's got some of that Spanish War, that Spaniard type of thing going on. Anyway, Sisters of the Undead, 1 black, 1 red, 4 random. It's just Olivia Crimson Bride. I don't know why it says Sisters of the Undead. I have the Olivia Crimson Bride card. It's the same thing though. It has flying, haste. Whenever Olivia Crimson Bride attacks, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains when you don't control a legendary vampire, exile this creature. Um, yeah, so it's a 3/4 attack, and that's a very useful thing to have. Also, if you're going to go for like the theme of a tribal deck, I would say Olivia Crimson Bride is a bit of a must because, like, isn't that basically Edgar Markov's wife? You kind of want to have the whole vampire crew there, don't you? All right, so Sky March Bloodletter, 1 black, 2 random vampire soldier. It has flying, and when he enters the battlefield, the target opponent loses a life and you gain a life. 2/2 is its power and toughness. Timothar, Baron of the Bats, 2 black and 4 random. He's a vampire noble. He has Ward, and it requires you to discard a card. Whenever another non-token vampire you control dies, you may pay 1 and exile it. If you do, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. It gains when this creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it, and return the exiled card to the battlefield tapped. It's a 4/4. It could be pretty useful to have this guy around in certain situations. Now, Vampire Nighthawk, it's 2 black, 1 random. Vampire Shaman, flying, death touch, and lifelink, and it's a 2/3 power and toughness. Vermin Gorger, 1 black, 1 random. Vampire. Uh, it has tap, and you sacrifice another creature. Each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Power and toughness is 2/2. Now we go into the Vicious Conquistador, 1 black to summon, and Vampire Soldier. Whenever Vicious Conquistador attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. He's a power and toughness of 1/2, but just the fact that you're having him attack is kind of why you have him there, you know. Vish Call, the Blood Arbiter. Now he's got an extremely high mana cost, but I will say that if you can pull it off, he's also very useful. Um, 2 black, 1 white, 4 random mana in order to summon. Legendary creature. He's flying and lifelink. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, you can put X as the variable of +1/+1 counters on Vish Call, Blood Arbiter, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. He's already a 5/5, so if you sacrifice something that's a 4/4, you're going to gradually make him stronger, and you can do that every turn and make him a big, big, beefy guy. And if you remove all the 1/1 counters from Vish Call, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn for each 1/1 counter removed this way. So you could even deduct whatever that you added on to this guy and basically turn your opponent's creatures into worthless trash bags floating in the wind. That Katy Perry song like popped in my head for a second. Do you ever feel like a plastic bag floating in the wind? Okay. Next one we got is Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose. 1 black, 2 random, Vampire Cleric, and it says whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. For 2 black and 3 random, creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. That is a very useful thing to just trigger whenever you can. His power and toughness is 1/3, so he's not very, he's not gonna be attacking much, but he adds in that static stuff, and that ability, like I said, is useful. Valdiran Epicure, 1 red mana cost, and Valdiran Epicure enters the battlefield, it does 1 damage to each opponent, and you create a blood token. It's a 1/1. It's just there to have. I think that's a filler card on my end. Okay, so Yaheni, Undying Partisan. 1 black, 2 random, legendary creature. An Etherborn vampire. It has haste. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, you put a 1/1 counter on Yaheni, Undying Partisan, and then you can sacrifice another creature. Yaheni gains indestructible until end of turn. His power and toughness is 2/2. I like him a lot, but you know, it's always up to you. Now, oh boy. All right, let's go to sorceries now. So, Chaplain's Blessing. It's a 1 white sorcery, and you gain 5 life. Diabolic Tutor. 2 black, 2 random. If you can't afford a demonic tutor, get a diabolic tutor. Search your library for a card and put that card in your hand, then shuffle your library. Very useful if you're looking for something. Edgar's Awakening. 2 black, 3 random sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. When you discard Edgar's Awakening, you may pay 1 black. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So you're going to be able to get 2 creatures out from the graveyard. You're going to put 1 on the battlefield and then 1 in your hand. You're not going to really regret this. For 1 black and 2 random, you've got Fortuitous Find. You can choose 1 or both. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Both of those are very useful. Now we got Gerard's Verdict. 1 black and 1 white. Sorcery. Target player discards 2 cards. You gain 3 life for each land card discarded this way. Yeah. You need life. You're going to need life in this. You're going to need life loss, life gain. Minions Murmurs, 2 black, 2 random. Sorcery, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of creatures you control. Olivia's Wrath, 1 black, 4 random. Each non-vampire creature gets -X until the end of turn, which is basically not going to affect us at all, where X is the number of vampires you control. And if you do have a lot of vampires, good for you. You probably will at this point. Resourceful Return, 1 black, 1 random. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. If you control an artifact, you draw a card. You're probably going to have a few artifacts out there, so that's also going to be helpful. It's a low cost. I like it. Sanctify, 1 white, 1 random. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. You gain 3 life. I love this card because you could just take away whatever's going on the opposite end of that. And you're gaining life. Use it. Soul Salvage Sorcery. 1 black, 1 random. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Amazing. Use it. Stensia Banquet. 1 red, 2 random. Stensia Banquet deals damage to the target opponent equal to the number of vampires you control. Draw a card afterwards. Very useful. Urborg Repossession. 1 black, and it has a kicker. Oh, I can't use that. Oh my gosh, because it has a forest in the descriptive area. So, I'm going to delete this. My bad. My bad. There we go. Skip that. That never happened. But you're going to have to find a card. I would just add another land. I'm going to add another swamp. Let's say I add another swamp. All right. Uh, Vampire's Kiss, 1 black, 1 random. I really have to get that card out of my deck. It's so embarrassing. Okay, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I'll figure it out. Vampire's Kiss, 1 black, 1 random, sorcery. Target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Create 2 blood tokens. And for 1 mana and tapping, you can discard a card and sacrifice this artifact, and you can draw a card. Um, yeah, I would just do the first ability. I'm not really worried about the draw discard situation. Now, as far as instances, I've got 2 here. Rest for the Wary, 1 white, 1 random. Target player gains 4 life. Landfall, if you have a land enter the battlefield under your control this turn, that player gains 8 life instead. Very useful. Sudden Edict, 1 black, 1 random. It's a split second. Target player sacrifices a creature. Okay. Now we're down to the artifacts. I've got 7. Blackblade Reforged for 2 random mana. It's an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. Equipped legendary creature, it costs 3 mana to do that. And equipped a random creature, it costs 7 mana to do that. Now, in this strategy, I would normally give the Blackblade to Edgar Markov once I put him onto the battlefield. And that just, I mean, it's just going to stack onto his overall threat level. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. Blade of the Blood Chief. It costs 1 random mana, and you equipped it for 1. And whenever a creature dies, you put a 1/1 counter on equipped creature. If equipped creature is a vampire, you put 2 1/1 counters on it instead. Very useful. I love it. Use it. Bride's Gown. 1 white, 1 random. It's an equipment. Equipped cost is 2. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. It gets an additional +0/+2, and has a first strike. It has first strike as long as equipment named Groom's Finery is attached to a creature you control. So you need Groom's Finery as well, ideally in a perfect like world, um, and you would put both of them on one person, and that would be the completion of the wedding set. I guess you'd have a wedding planner, and for some reason they would have both of those things. I don't know. Ceremonial Knife, 1 random, mana cost. Equipment is 2, and equipped creature gets +1/+0, and has whenever this creature deals combat damage, you create a blood token. Um, And blood tokens are an artifact with 1 mana cost, tapping it, discarding a card, sacrificing the artifact, and then drawing a card. So that can be useful depending on the circumstances. Glass Cast Heart. 1 black, 2 random. Whenever one or more vampires you control attack, create a blood token. Pretty great. Um, for 1 black and tapping this heart, you pay 1 life and you create a 1/1 white and black vampire creature token with lifelink. For 2 black and tapping, you can sacrifice Glasscast Heart and 13 blood tokens. Each opponent loses 13 life and you gain 13 life. That's what you're talking about. That's what you've got to do with this card. And it's going to be the perfect scenario for you. Now, Groom's Finery is a black and a random, and it's an equipment creature, and it gets +2/+0, which is what you would need with the Bride's Gown. It's the same thing essentially, um, and it gives you Death Touch as long as an equipment named the Bride's Gown is attached to a creature you control. So this will give you Death Touch. Bride's Gown will give you First Strike. So First Strike and Death Touch to have both of them on. Soul Ring is the next one in that order of artifacts. 1 random. You're tapping it, you're getting 2 mana. Okay. 7 enchantments. Alright. Dictate of Erebos. 2 black, 3 random. It has Flash, cast it whenever you want to, and then whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. This thing will, I mean, yeah, your enemies are going to be they're going to be terrified. If every time they kill one of you, one of your vampire puppies, one of your vampires are dead, they have to sacrifice something. It's a perfect revenge call, you know? I like that. Enchantment, Dodged Pursuit, 1 black, 3 random. It says at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life and you gain a life. Same thing. Life gain, life loss, vampires, you get the drift. Gift of Fangs, 1 black, mana cost, enchant creature, and enchanted creature gets +2/+2 as long as it's a vampire. Otherwise, it gets -2/-2. There's not many situations for me personally that I would want to use this on anything other than a vampire, but the fact that we have so many vampires, we're going to be perfectly fine using this for our own personal gain. Lich's Mastery is kind of, I'm going to tell you to use this with like an asterisk. You need to be very fucking careful with this. It's 3 black mana, 3 random. It has hexproof. You can't lose the game. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, for each 1 life you lost, exile a permanent you control or a card from your hand or graveyard. When Lich's Mastery leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. So if they're able to find a way to get rid of this, you're gonna, yeah, you're gonna regret it. I'm gonna have to look that up, but it's just something I added in last minute. Rune of Mortality, because I have it, by the way. I have Lich's Mastery. I just can't find a place for it, you know. But Rune of Mortality, it's an aura rune, 1 black, 1 random cost, enchant permanent. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. As long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it has Death Touch, and as long as an enchanted permanent is an equipment, it has equipped creature has Death Touch. So you could, yeah, I mean, you're just getting Death Touch from this, and you're getting a card. It's not that bad. Spirit Link, 1 white cost. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life. It just gives your creature that you enchant lifelink. It's not bad. Trespasser's Curse for 1 black and 1 random. You enchant a player. When a creature enters the battlefield under enchanted player's control, that player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. I like this because if you're playing multiple people, you can pick who you want to start taking the small hits, you know. But yeah, that goes down for my my Vampire Tribal Commander deck. I'm pretty proud of it. It's a very competitive deck. It does win a bunch. I have as far as lands, I have 37. Now, I'm not gonna really talk too much about this. The one card I do have in here that wow, that's weird. That's a weird printing. I'm gonna change that printing and then I'm gonna talk about the printing. Okay, so one card I have in my lands that are kind of like, oh shit, how did you do that? What's this? People always ask like, what is going on? It's a card. It's perfectly legal. It's called Westvale Abbey. Um, when you tap it, it gives you 1 mana, right? If you tap for 5 mana and tap this land, you pay 1 life and you create a 1/1 white and black human cleric creature token. Now, if you use 5 mana and tap this land, you can sacrifice 5 creatures, transform Westvale Abbey, then untap it. Now, check this out. When you flip it over, it's Ormondal, the Profane Prince. It's a legendary creature demon, flying, lifelink, indestructible, and haste, and it's a 9/7. It's the one demon I have in this deck, and it's the one card I have that I feel like I've never seen someone, you know, put this in there like a sly, like this is your trick up your sleeve, you know? I like that a lot. So I hope you guys had a good time watching this. If you did watch the whole thing, kudos to you. I feel like my channel is dying of cancer, but I'm still working at it. So any support will be you'll have my gratitude for sure. If you can like and subscribe, comment, tell me I'm an idiot, whatever you want to do. I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I will see you later.